Fam, let's talk about the best freaking cabinet picks ever to come.
Yeah. So, basically, what Joe Biden is doing is he's bringing everybody from the Obama administration, and he just tapped NSA Susan Rice for a key position and is bringing in everybody else. So, let's go over a little bit of the information here because it's a lot. So the 4 finalists, he has 4 finalists for Attorney General, right? 2 of the most popular ones are Merrick Garland, who was supposed to be the Supreme Court nominee from Obama, and then Doug Jones, who is the senator. He recently lost his position, so he's leaving. He also had that whole debacle, which we're going to go over in a minute. He also appointed Dennis McDonough for Secretary of Veteran Affairs, Tom Vilsack for Agricultural Secretary, and Marcia Fudge for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And like I said, Susan Rice, who was former national security under Obama, she is now being tapped for the director of the Domestic Policy Council. So it will be a lot better for, I guess, the world, depending on who he picks. It probably will be a worse person. He also announced Katherine Tai, who she was the one that oversaw the trade enforcement for China during the Obama years. And we're going to go over who some of them are, because as you start looking at these people, you start realizing really quickly that, well, they suck. They're all NSA, CIA. They're all really consultant class. It is status quo as it ever gets. And in a lot of ways, that's more dangerous than somebody that's blatantly going to tell you what's going on. And that is the Biden administration. So Garland, he was nominated by Obama for SCOTUS. He went to Harvard Law. He has actually tons of Republican support. Most of the information about him just touts about how much support he has from Republicans. He is somebody that is bipartisan across the board. Then you have Doug Jones, of course, who lost the Alabama race recently, like I said. And he
my bad. Sorry. Trying to share with Mom.
He did legal work for this Birmingham politician foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And he let me just read a little bit of this.
He's the one who beat Roy Moore, the
guy that was
the judge that had like pedophilia charges against him and whatnot.
And I'm just gonna read a little bit of this. He did legal work for a corrupt Democratic politician's foundation, and this money was allegedly funded for bribes. As recently as this year, Doug Jones had they had an ethics disclosure findings that found that he worked as an attorney for the foundation that was caught up in unfolding criminal investigations. He has a lot of baggage as well. He also got called out for by child sex trafficking victims for his hypocrisy in blasting Roy Moore, because apparently he there was a situation with a woman who sued the University of Alabama of Birmingham, and this was over sexual abuse in 2001. And she called out the Alabama Democratic U.S. candidate then, Doug Jones, for hypocrisy for his role as a defense attorney on behalf of the university. So he doesn't really have a great reputation. And those are for Attorney General, which, I mean, nothing new. It's not like Donald Trump picked anybody that was amazing. But I really want to get to like the crux of the Biden cabinet, because Dennis, what?
I was just going to say real quick that Roy Moore was one of those people, his voting record was along the lines of Republicans almost every single time. Like they pointed out, remember, they convinced
Roy Moore or
excuse me, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones,
they convinced you to vote for Doug Jones and that whole Alabama race, and then he goes and just votes. He's not progressive at all in any means whatsoever, and he voted mostly with the Republicans on 90% of his votes. It was ridiculous.
And then Dennis McDonough is the nominee for the Secretary of Veteran Affairs. He was a former Obama chief of staff, but he is not a veteran. He has never been in the military. So people were pushing back on that fact. Like, they wanted somebody that had actually been a veteran. And of course, the Biden team nominated somebody that's not a veteran. He, of course, like I said, longtime aide to President Obama from 2013 to 2017. He was chosen reportedly because of his ability to navigate crises and sort through the complex morass of government programs that can support veterans. Literally bullshit. He was chosen because he was the point guy to Barack Obama. So this is why people are pushing back against his nomination. And if you look down here, McDonough, like I said, he didn't serve as a military. And he's just a guy that doesn't deserve to really have that position. A lot of veterans are pushing back. None of these have been confirmed, but none of them, I think all of them need Senate confirmation, except Susan Rice, who we're going to get to in a minute. Tom Vilsack, to me, is one of the worst picks, fam. Tom Vilsack, if you recall, he is like the Mr. Monsanto guy. Mm-hmm. Okay, he is nominated right now for the Agriculture Secretary. He is the former Secretary of Agriculture under the Barack Obama administration, and he's a Monsanto goon. As a USDA Secretary, he actually failed to protect the food workers and did very little to combat the agency's racist policies, and also championed the industrial agricultural over the family farmers. So if you don't know, and this is one of the good reasons why we're vegan, Big AG or Big Agriculture is like horrible because they basically make factory farming the way to go, and they basically make it so you're mass producing all of this meat and all of this just these animals are produced or as food in a massive way, and the small farmers have been screwed by big agriculture, which is why, like, some people who do eat meat are always saying buy local, buy from your farmers. It's because of big agriculture.
Yeah.
And he's also a corporate lobbyist and anti-climate change, and like I said, Big AG. And FoxNews.com pretty much pointed out his failures when it comes to the farmers. Farmers I'm obviously going to be outraged by this decision because he's been under fire for over $1 million for $1 million a year job with this group that was funded by mandatory fees from struggling dairy farmers. So he's profiting off of the dairy industry that really screwed up a lot of these farmers. And there was this really great article on his support from big agriculture. So Tom Vilsack, according to the prospect.org, after the election, Obama's USDA, under Vilsack's control, and the Justice Department set out a 5-city listening tour of farm country, hearing stories about Big AG price discrimination, hearing all these farmers that were upset. But after the hearings, there was no laws, no enforcement taken, nothing was changed, and more mergers were actually approved. And Obama's team asserted that their hands were tied by antitrust laws. And according to this person, he did nothing, and Vilsack did nothing, and the Department of Justice did nothing. They totally betrayed us. This created a lack of trust that has now spread to both parties. If Biden broke with this past and brought in new advisors with a commitment to protecting family farms, that trust begins to be rebuilt. But instead, the Biden team has returned to the same old corporate AG well. So this isn't just affecting the usual sector, like, oh, he had just racist policies, because he did as well. But we're talking about the working class of white farmers in middle America. We're talking about, people that have worked in these industries. And if you recall the reasons why Donald Trump was elected, he was elected because of the failure of neoliberalism. And this is a part of it. And Biden is just bringing it back. So that goes to tell you, who the hell are we going to elect next time on the right? Because this is just going to create more of backlash. In addition to his role at disappointing farmers while at USDA, people point to him taking a job as president and CEO, like I was mentioning, of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. As soon as his term with Obama was done, he went and took this job, $1 million+ job. The council's members include large corporate dairy interests, which have dominated the industry and destroyed family farms. About 4,600 dairy farms have closed every year, with some dairy companies now including a list of suicide prevention hotlines in their envelopes with farmers' checks. Fam, what does that make you feel as a vegan? Like that dairy and big, AG is such a massive issue, and it's hurting and screwing all these small farmers.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people who would say, well, if you use the local stuff, you use the organic farmers, you eat the organic eggs, everything's okay. But now we're on this mass just pipeline, this chain of just getting these big farmers, and just it's disgusting the way they do things. And we understand, we've seen this before. We've watched all the videos, so it's horrifying. And the fact that the left is back for pushing. I thought the left was supposed to be for the little guy.
Well, we're mitigating damage. Fam.
We are mitigating damage. Sorry, guys. Keep mitigating damage. Go ahead.
So Matt Stoller posted this tweet. He said, Tom Vilsack is hated by both rural whites, whose livelihood he crushed, and black Americans towards whom his department was actively racist. That's a strong R block and strong D block united in dislike. But he's friends with Biden and Des Moines upper class lawyers like him. So I guess that's all that matters. And this is just in reference to David Dayen posting how Tom Vilsack, the AG department, signals writing off rural families in favor of agribusiness.
Yeah.
And so this would be a huge mistake. Everybody, even some of his goons are telling Biden, hey, this isn't a good idea. You're going to piss a lot of people off. But this is a really good thread by Kevin Gostola. And I have to point this one out because he listed everything you need to know regarding Monsanto, basically. So this is Tom Vilsack, okay? He's known as actually Mr. Monsanto. And, of course, like we said, he was Secretary of Agriculture with Obama. But basically, Branko Marcetic summarized how Vilsack earned the moniker Mr. Monsanto while in the Obama administration. He looked out for the interests of agriculture and biotech corporations, especially when it came to MGOs. And I'll just read a little bit of this here. Tom Vilsack's current president and CEO of the U.S. Export Council, Vilsack was plucked from his seat as a biofuel and biotech-friendly Iowa governor to serve as the President Barack Obama's agriculture secretary. While his tenure wasn't uniformly bad, Vilsack resisted Republican attacks on food stamps and upped federal support for organic food. He angered progressive groups by letting poultry factories self-regulate, speeding up the approval process for GMO crops, shelving new regulations on agriculture at the industry's behest, and stepping into the craft and industry-friendly national GMO labeling bill intended to replace a pioneering stricter standard in Vermont. The move helps him earn the moniker Mr. Monsanto and the enmity of many Bernie Sanders supporters at a time in 2016 when he was shortlisted as one of Hillary's potential running mates. So he's always been one of the people. He was also he caved into biotech genetically, and we know Monsanto is really bad, but he also continued to approve anything they did without any sort of restrictions. When it comes to GMOs, you have to label everything, and he completely fought against that. He also was for the merger of Bayer and Monsanto, which is one of the most destructive things that we've had. The largest, I think, one of the largest companies merging with one of the bioengineering companies in Monsanto is one of the most dangerous things you can have here. So, yeah.
These people have been running their game for a long, long time. There was connections to Bayer and Monsanto before Monsanto was even Monsanto back in the days. I looked at some stuff when, and also the Dark Act. If we talk about the Dark Act, right, that was signed during, I believe, Barack Obama's presidency. So, I mean, here it goes. We're returning to the glory days by mitigating damage. So
I urge you guys to read that whole thread. It's very informative. And yeah, that's just Vilsack. And he's just, he's, again, a typical Obama guy. And we had Marcia Fudge, and Marcia Fudge is going to be the Secretary of Housing and Development. Now, this one's mixed because a lot of progressives unknowingly were cheering for her. Why? Oh, because she's a woman of color. Okay, so we have, according to Politico, she's going to be the in charge of housing and urban and development, which is kind of like, why are you putting her in charge of urban developing? It's a little bit, kind of like, I don't want to say racist, but it's a little bit kind of like you could have put her somewhere else, but she is making her case she was making her case for agriculture secretary, but she didn't get it. One of the things about her that I want to point out is that she's a status quo politician as they come. She backed Senator Kamala Harris during the Democratic presidential primary. And after Harris dropped out, she worked behind the scenes to secure Biden's victory. And of course, this included urging Democratic Majority Whip Jim Clyburn to go public with his endorsement of Biden before the South Carolina primary. Bernie Sanders subsequently lost that primary. She said, I do know there are many people who are lobbying. My name was mentioned even before this election. I've been very, very loyal to the ticket, and I will remain loyal to the ticket. I just want to say, do you want somebody in there that's loyal to Joe Biden, to the Democratic Party? Because it's irrelevant, because Joe Biden isn't going to be the president for long. We know this, but do you really want another loyal Democrat in there? And all it takes is to look at her Twitter for 5 seconds to know that she's a typical establishment politician. Right over here on her Twitter, she says the CARES Act prevented millions of families from falling into poverty, yet much of that relief has now disappeared. Poverty is spiking across America, and it's only going to get worse. It doesn't have to be this way. Our communities need help now. So she's propping up the CARES Act, of course, which was the largest transfer of wealth. It beat what happened in 2009. The largest transfer of wealth from the poorest sectors all the way to the top 1%. Like I said, she was pro Kamala Harris. So I was a little bit weirded out when Nina Turner was thanking her for her nomination. Nina Turner said, "Congratulations, Marcia Fudge, on being nominated as to the HUD secretary. Our country faces a historic crisis in housing, from evictions to lack of affordability. The challenges ahead require someone who understands the enormity of the problems facing millions of Americans." And I was a little turned off by that. Why is Nina Turner congratulating a Democrat that's a status quo establishment Democrat that supported Kamala Harris, that supports Joe Biden, that did everything she could behind the scenes to elect Joe Biden? I'm just a little bit weirded out. So does that mean like Nina Turner's going to be doing the same type of thanking if she gets in there as a Democrat? Like, this is why I don't support the Democratic Party or anybody running in it, because then they do this shit, like, and they continue building the Democratic Party up, and they continue building up these players. Yeah.
Well, I ain't got much to say, because I just want to start talking and all why do people buy it? Why do people accept it? Why does it continue to go on? I think because they see the elections and they think these elections are they're solid, and since they don't, look at these elections. I mean, the elections are the vessel for them to continue to keep holding on to their power and doing what they're doing. So, I mean, it's just sad, because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking at all these things, and I'm like, look at who they're putting back in. I mean, that's what we know what was going on. Yeah. The establishment just wanted to get all their people. They wanted things to go back to the way they were before Donald Trump was here, before the great agitator came along. And they're doing it. And we have people saying, what? Mitigating damage. We have people like AOC and the squad saying, look at the Republicans, but look what the Democrats are doing. Look who they're putting back in charge. I mean, Mr. Monsanto, they should make a jacket for him that says that. I mean, it's just disgusting.
It's disgusting, and it gets worse because when we talk about U.S.-China aggression, it's one of the bigger deals, right? Yeah. And Katherine Tai is, of course, the first woman of color to be nominated for this position. And she's nominated for a U.S. trade representative. So I'm just going to say right off the bat, expect anti-China trade policies, but intersectional imperialism, because that's what we have to look forward to. She's currently is the top Democratic trade counsel for the House and Ways Means Committee, and she oversaw the trade enforcement in China during the Obama administration. And what she believes in is basically more aggression towards China when it comes to trade. She was a proponent of revamping NAFTA into what it became under the Trump administration, but it was largely basically the same thing. I mean, it was basically the same thing. And she came from Capitol Hill. She was nominated to a role in 2017 after serving 3 years in the House and Ways Committee. She has the experience. However, she played a key role, like I said, in negotiating the trade policy with Democrats in the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, which came under the Trump administration, or the USMCA agreement. And again, you can expect more anti-China stances when it comes to trade, and when it comes to the economic policies that the Biden administration is going to put. And Judy Chu, Pasta's favorite representative, is excited about her. She said, "I've worked closely with Katherine Tai on trade issues and know she is exceptionally qualified to serve as our USTR and as chair of the CAPAC. I'm thrilled to have such an incredible American, Asian, Pacific Islander woman at the cabinet level to inspire others." And of course, they're focusing on the fact that she's the first AAPI, but they're also completely not pointing out that her policies are going to be very much anti-China. If you read her record, it's going to be a lot of tariffs, a lot of taxes, a lot of things when it comes to the trade in China, and we don't need that. We absolutely don't need any more of that. And finally, bam, Susan Rice. Susan is my favorite. She's going to be the director of the Domestic Policy Council after getting shot down again for a foreign policy position. She was very excited. She said that "I am humbled and excited to call this to serve. By this call to serve, the scale of the challenges ahead demands a government that works for all Americans. We must restore trust in government through strong and equitable domestic policy that builds back better here at home." That phrase, "build back better," they're all saying it. I just want to point that out. That's like a deep state thing. Like, they're all saying "build back better." It's the new thing that they're saying.
The new catchphrase?
Yeah, because it's not, they basically just told everybody, we're not going to go back to before. They're calling it the new normal. They're saying we're going to build back better. This is why, when Whitney Webb talks about the merging of the technocratic superpowers with our government, like, this is part of it. This goes right along the lines. And just a reminder, I did a graphic. Susan Rice helped bring about the Libyan slave trade via U.S. intervention. She also had that Benghazi video that went viral, where she was using CIA talking points and flat out lying about what happened. She pushed for proxy wars in Syria. She supported Israel's massacre and siege of Gaza. She is pro-U.S. sanctions on Iran. She has said so constantly. She is anti-China as it gets, pushing for more hawkish relations. And of course, she she failed when it came to dealing with the Rwanda genocide, which, Hotel Rwanda is a great movie that Pasta loves. And regarding Benghazi, she defended herself by saying, "I relied solely and squarely on the information provided to me by the intelligence community." And she said, "I made clear that the information provided to me was preliminary and that our investigations would give us the definitive answers." Would you say that that's even true? I mean, she was flat out lying. Like, she literally said that something that wasn't true. She made up that the attacks were from protesters when it wasn't the case.
Didn't she say it was about the cartoon or something? I can't even remember.
She made up that it was about the protesters. And yet people still say that she's extremely qualified. Rice did win accolades for pushing the UN Security Council to adopt new Iran and North Korean sanctions. That's right. She was praised for adopting more sanctions, helping secure the toughest UN measures to date against those two countries over their nuclear programs. She also played a key role in negotiating the resolution on Libya. And Madeleine Albright on Susan Rice said this, because Madeleine Albright and Susan Rice knew each other since she was a little girl. Susan Rice knew Madeleine Albright since she was 4 years old. She's comes from an elite upper class family. Madeleine Albright said, "We often traveled together, and I took her advice very seriously." And this is Madeleine Albright, who served as UN ambassador from 93 to 97 and Secretary of State, of course, from 97 to 2001. She said, "I think she is one of the smartest people I know in her national security issues." if Madeleine Albright compliments you, that is a terrible thing. That is like the devil complimenting you. She's
a good Padawan
Satan itself. Yeah.
I conditioned her since she was 4.
No, so Madeleine Albright wouldn't be a Jedi. She would be the Count Dooku or something.
The Sith.
The Sith Lord.
Sith Lord.
Yeah, she is the Sith Lord. And so just more on Benghazi at w.antiempire.com. They basically talked about the in 2012 the attack on the U.S. diplomatic campground in Benghazi. Rice was on the Sunday morning talking show reciting the CIA talking points, and she said that they were based on intelligence assessments at the time, but turned out to be incomplete and misleading. And she was accused of being incompetent, untrustworthy, and soft-pedaling terrorism. She has also been criticized for her decision to unmask the identities of senior Trump officials, which Trump called a crime. She had a great influence, like I said, on bombing decisions to bomb Libya and Syria. And even Obama had to push back in that case. She said, in each case, I would argue she was coming out against Obama's clear-cut instincts or preferences in White House meetings or in a situation where he was hesitant, and that she was part of the pressure he received from a coalition of hawks and the administration. And she describes this, and this is Barack, Mr. Drone Warfare, Mr. Took us from 2 to 7 wars, Obama, and she makes him look like a little boy when it comes to how hawkish she was. She said, ultimately, we would fail to garner the necessary support for congressional authorization to use force. Republicans and Democrats had acted precisely as I predicted. Ironically, it turns out I was right about the politics, but President Obama was right about policy. Without the use of force, we ultimately achieved a better outcome than I had imagined. So she was pushing Obama to actually go and fully set out a full-on attack in Syria and Libya. And even Obama had to say, no, well, we won't use that kind of force. So that just goes to show you the kind of person that is going to be now in charge of our domestic policy. It's so much better for us. I'm so excited.
Listen, this is what they wanted. They wanted everything to get back to the status quo. They were so disgusted what happened with Trump. They just wanted to get all their people back in there. And it looks like they're going to accomplish that if things go through. And it's kind of disgusting. I mean, I'm sitting here feeling hopeless. What do we do now? It's just here we go. It's back to, because under Obama, things did not get better. They got worse.
They got worse.
You know what I'm saying?
People got pissed off.
People, it's just.
He's putting in all the people that drove, Biden's putting in all the people that drove people to Trump.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
What do you, what is this going to do? It's going to push everything more towards the right. And right now, I've told many leftists, there's a right-wing populist movement that's developing, and that can also be a dangerous thing depending on where they take it. Depending on where it goes, it could be dangerous. It could be a good thing where some people join forces with a left-wing populist movement or whatever it is. But it could also be a very bad thing if people feel oh, Democrats are so bad, let's go to the right, and then boom. That's what you have. You have that dangerous, because if you have the working class, right, whether it's white or whether it's black or whether it's Latino, the working class angry at the status quo, and you have a two-party system that makes it impossible for people to go outside the duopoly, people are going to choose to go to the right. And this is why Donald Trump got so much of the white working class, the farmers, all these people that got screwed by factories in Michigan. That's part of it. And so by putting people from the Obama administration back in, you're putting the same conditions back in that led to the election of Donald Trump. And so you're going to get a worse person, maybe more competent, maybe more angry with the way that people were cheated and this election was rigged. It's just going to increase that movement.
Well, I think that's going to move to what's more anti-establishment. And what the Democrats are doing are just going establishment is AF. That's it. I mean, they're but pushing every single bit of establishment type of people, these career politicians that they're putting back into play that were there before.
But you can have an anti-establishment right that is anti-immigrant and is anti-black and anti like social issues too. You can have that, and that can be dangerous too, because if you look at throughout history at what happened with the development of Hitler got the white working class because he helped them. Like Hitler, when it came to that, he was extremely progressive when it came to climate, when it came to all these things. He just didn't like Jewish people. Yeah. And that is something that can absolutely develop and happening. So that's what I'm saying to the left. Like, if you want to actually combat the right-wing populism that's developing, you need to embrace the populism on the left with anti-establishment, attacking the security state, attacking the military-industrial complex, attacking the overall the deep state, the CIA, all these institutions. Otherwise, the fight is only going to be on this side, and it's going to be difficult to garner everybody together against that, because only one ideology is going to have the forefront. So whenever you're fighting against the right, you without, like, the Democrats keep us from actually being able to have this discussion. So